Well, of course, on day two, the spotlight continues to be on the relationship between the general as well as Kat Madlanga. He was also probed about a number of things, particularly around why he shared sensitive court documentation with Madlanga about alleged kidnapping kingpin Nangi, who had, according to the affidavits, had opened complaints against several police officers. General Senona insisting he only shared the information with Madlanga because he lived in the same area as Nangi and he was merely warning Madlanga, insisting that that information had already been in the public domain through that News 24 article on the 24th of March 2025. A number of questions being raised here, particularly because he had top security clearance. Let's bring in Chad just to speak to us around this particular matter. Chad Thomas is a crime expert, and he joins us now just to unpack some of what we've been hearing. Chad, very good afternoon to you. So what do you make of General Senona's testimony today, especially on, when he shared information with Kat Madlanga? He did, in fact, have top secret security clearance. We know, of course, that a top secret security clearance in this country is the highest level of vetting.
Hi there, and good afternoon to the viewers. Look, whether he has top secret clearance or not is irrelevant when you start sharing documentation with third parties who don't have clearance. And that's the whole purpose of having clearance limits, whether it's restricted, confidential, secret, or top secret. It's that level of validation that has to be shared with somebody that shares the same level of restriction. In respect to the documents that he purportedly shared with Kat Madlanga that he said was in the public domain, I can't see those documents being in the public domain without being sensitized, in other words, redacted. You're not going to see ID numbers or force numbers of police officers once a document goes into the public domain. Normally, those items will be redacted to protect the identity, and also, of course, in terms of POPI and other relevant legislation. So he shared that information, and it was pertinent at the time because Nangi, you must understand, has opened charges against Mkhwanazi as well as against other very senior members of the South African Police Service, including security companies, all which were involved in the anti-kidnapping task team, which was set up to stop this huge influx of kidnappings taking place in South Africa. And he was arrested in KwaZulu-Natal by a multidisciplinary task team from crime intelligence comprising of members from Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. This kind of information should not be getting shared. Whether or not there is a civil case in place is irrelevant. This should not be getting shared. And the fact that he was a neighbor of Kat Madlanga's is irrelevant in the whole scope of things. It's very concerning that we're seeing a general sharing this type of information. We must remember that is what happened with Jackie Selebe and Glenn Agliotti. Jackie Selebe shared confidential information with Glenn Agliotti, and that's why they said there was a corrupt relationship, which led to the Commissioner of Police and the President of Interpol being imprisoned.
I still think that having that top, security clearance does matter, is important because of just what it means for a senior police, official. And it does kind of put a spotlight in terms of how should future security clearance and vetting processes be strengthened to prevent such a similar controversy. I mean, because here you have a senior police officer who had several meetings with Madlanga, as we're hearing just now before the break, meeting at what he calls our usual place, even accompanying him, as we heard yesterday, to meet General Mkhwanazi about SABC service provider issues. And yet, on the other hand, he saw the commission that he only learned of, Babita Deokaran's murder through media reports, and that he didn't realize that one of the companies implicated in the underlying corruption at Tembisa Hospital was linked to Kat Madlanga. It does speak to the nature of this senior police officer.
You're 100% right in what you're saying. A person of his experience in the policing service and within the Hawks knows about all the high-profile cases. If he doesn't, he shouldn't be in that position. You cannot be a provincial head of the Hawks if you don't know what's going on around the country and the different layers of criminality that's taking place in South Africa and who the different players are. Not to mention that he was based in Gauteng for a long time. He actually served under General Sibiya when General Sibiya was head of the Gauteng Hawks. Senona was still a colonel back then, based directly under the leadership of Sibiya. So his story about not knowing that Kat Madlanga was involved in anything untoward or any illicit activities, it doesn't hold water, because as a person holding such a senior position, and like you mentioned, top secret clearance, he would have access to a lot of information that we as the public don't necessarily have information about. And there's also team meetings, project team meetings that take place between all the provincial heads together with their national leadership, where they discuss projects that impact from a national perspective. So Vusikat Matlala's name would have definitely come up in one of these meetings that were held. And herein lies a problem, and it goes to exactly what you're saying about top secret clearance. Somebody with top secret clearance getting briefed by his colleagues at these meetings could have very well been sharing that information with Vusikat Matlala, who was a target in multiple investigations.
We know now he is, under some form of disciplinary. Just speak to us about just the testimony in general in terms of the number of denials. I mean, you would have seen that the commissioners were having problems and using words of improbable that you wouldn't have known, or, it doesn't make sense that you don't see the magnitude of this particular, engagement with, Kat Matlala, who is currently, behind bars. I mean, what do you make then of just some of the utterances that we have been hearing from someone who says he has been a decorated police officer?
This is very interesting, because it's very different to what we're seeing at ad hoc. Here we're seeing experts in their space doing what is required. At ad hoc, we're seeing parliamentarians who represent us as the citizenry of this land asking questions, but they're not necessarily legal professionals. They're not necessarily advocates, and they haven't but perhaps sat on the bench like the commissioner has, and some of the other commissioners have sat as acting judges. And this is very important, because evidence is being led, but at the same time, there's a form of cross-examination taking place. And a lot of people fall very short when it comes to cross-examination. We've seen this with people in South Africa that we would least expect to crumble under cross-examination. We've seen the ex-NDPP not doing very well under cross-examination at the Kambinde Commission of Inquiry into childcare's fitness to hold office. And now we're seeing a seasoned general collapsing under cross-examination. And that's simply because his stories aren't holding up. Where he says he stopped communicating in March, but they can now show that there was actually communication right up until just before Matlala was arrested, shows that he's been deceitful.
Yeah.
He's not being honest with the commission, especially when they ask him specific questions about why he's sharing specific things.
Yeah, Chad, we are obviously monitoring the Madlanga Commission, and when it resumes, it was a very brief comfort break, but I do see that the commissioners are not back yet, and when they are, we'll take our viewers back there. But, I just want to also probe you on what we've been hearing since the commission has been back, particularly on Senzo Mchunu. Just before this particular break, he was asked, and that is Sona, about text messages or documents that he is aware of or not aware of that was sent to the Senzo and Thobeka Mchunu Foundation, and he says he was not aware of those. And of course, when they resume, they'll probably pick up where they left off. But just what you make of what we've been hearing around, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who's on special leave, of course, also Witness E's testimony around those concerns.
What we heard from General Gopal, the Deputy Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal, was really revealing in respect of Mchunu's interference and involvement in investigations, and wanting to know pertinent information. We also heard from a witness whose identity was concealed, who's in witness protection, how Mchunu purportedly reached out to him on a number that was very strictly controlled. This person is, after all, in witness protection, and how offers were made to assist in the compilation of an affidavit under oath. All of this is exceptionally concerning. I think that's why we see Madlanga now leading into this line of questioning in respect of Mchunu. Because Mchunu, there's always been this question hanging in the air. What led him to make the decisions that he did on the 31st of December 2024 that led to the purported disbandment, or his wanting the disbandment of PKTT, and also at the same time in that very same document that he sent out, that no further crime intelligence appointments could be made.
Yeah. All right, Chad, thank you so much for that comment. And it comes at a perfect time. I do believe that the Madlanga Commission is back.